Welcome to the Femsplainers. I'm Danielle Crittenden.
And I'm Christina Hoff-Summers.
Why do I say it like that?
I do?
Yeah.
I'm Christina Hoff-Summers.
I'm Christina.
I'll say it with...
No, stop.
Christina Hoff-Summers.
Oh my God, you sound so old. And we're here in the studio, as always, with Zoe Appler.
Hello, friends.
Hello. And so we've got what did they used to say in the Dark Ages, a fabulous shoe. Johnny Carson. Fabulous shoe.
One of the world's leading mansplainers. Maybe the father of all mansplaining.
I think he invented blogging, really. He was the first major blogger. Andrew Sullivan, we're talking about. Yeah. Andrew Sullivan. Do you realize we've had mansplainers 2 weeks in a row?
Yeah.
Is this do you think this is a bid to get up ratings and we're just sexist and we believe if we have men on we'll get better ratings than if we have women and we're discriminating against ourselves?
We've internalized the patriarchy.
Oh no.
Oh God.
But Andrew is amazing and he's been writing, as we'll get into him, a lot on the trans issue and why it's so big right now and what's going on. And he's been, as one of the true founders of modern gay rights movement, is now being
vilified
kicked out and vilified
and canceled for not having the most up-to-date opinions on the trans issue.
So that's going to be interesting. But before we get there, as our listeners know, I'm very, very concerned about Christina's Twitter use. I mean, we're all on social media a lot. I'm in a bit of a glass house here, but it is now showing that horns are growing, especially on young people's skulls, and they're blaming the use of phones, that the head is bent, and it's like an evolutionary thing, like a second toe or something, that we're growing horns at the base of our skull.
You know what? I have a horn at the base of my skull. I do. Well, it's not. Yeah.
What is that?
On my cervical spine, I have a cartilage or a bone spur.
Is it from all your social media?
I know. It's from being a writer for 100 years, sitting at the computer. And it's compressed, but I found a doctor that cured it. But I've had chronic pain. So if you are sitting at your computer all the time, like sit up straight and...
Well, but this is the phone. I think it's not so much the computer, because that's like carpal tunnel syndrome, but this is horns. Like, so you're a very young Gen, what do we call you? Gen Z or whatever.
Gen Zoe.
You're Gen Zoe. And are you concerned that you might be getting horns in the back of your head? And that's what used to be an anti-Semitic slur, right? That we had horns, but we had them on the top of our head.
My late husband was an undergraduate at Columbia University and had a roommate from Alabama who was a little worried when he was assigned Fred as his roommate because he thought Jews had horns. They became best friends, but it didn't start well. Anyway,
we've shocked Zoe. That was false, but apparently this is true, Zoe.
No, it's not.
What?
Sorry.
What?
This is fake news.
What about
about the horns? So shortly after this study came out, Snopes obviously jumped right on this because this was quite a juicy headline. I will say.
No, it went around the world. It said bone spurs caused by the forward tilt of the head. This is from the Washington Post, which shifts weight from the spine to the muscles at the back of the head, causing bone growth.
I've got an MRI that shows this, and I did it not from my phone, but I did it from being over. I've got it.
But Zoe says it's not true.
Yes. So it's been disproved. So at this point, several behavioral scientists looked at the study, and they said that it lacked a control group. So therefore, it couldn't show a cause and effect because all the people that had come in that had these x-rays were people that were already experiencing enough pain to undergo a diagnostic x-ray. So it's not clear what bearing the results have on the rest of the population. So we don't actually know if it's true.
I see. So
but if there's an uptick in the number of people coming in, that's
So they also Dr. Evan Johnson, who works at New York Presbyterian Spine Hospital, said that essentially even if it was a bone spur forming on the neck, he basically said, so what? The more worrisome finding would be if cell phone use were responsible for widespread changes in posture that could result in long-term musculoskeletal problems.
Oh, I think, Christina, you are the patient zero.
I'm patient zero of that. Mm-hmm. And then there's the tail What is that?
What is
You
the
grow a
tail? Well, you
tail.
are
What is the
telling me.
tail?
What is this?
From video games, you grow tails.
Pokemon?
Pokemon, no. No, it's an urban legend.
Oh, what, that you're just sitting so long?
Yeah.
Well, why would a tail grow?
I don't know. It just does. Or maybe it's...
Okay, well, it's good that we are so scientific here.
Yeah.
And
We work really hard.
we work really hard at this. We just Google snows. Hey, don't forget, people, my sacrifices and work in science. So we don't need to
yes.
refer to it because we're never referring to those topics again
This
after
is true.
last week.
This is true.
Okay, Christina, do you have anything that you want to talk about?
Well, I have a more serious topic, which is this issue about Harvard University basically removing Professor Sullivan, this law professor.
Remind our listeners, for those who don't remember, aren't following it, what happened.
Yes, well, at Harvard University, Ronald Sullivan, a distinguished professor of law at the law school, and his wife have been masters of a Harvard house for years. And there was this protest because he joined the defense team for Harvey Weinstein.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he is a defense lawyer. He's defended all sorts of people on, mostly he's defended people for violations of their civil rights. He's just a fantastic lawyer. And of course, we have a tradition in this country that even the people who are presumably guilty still have a right to a defense. So it's completely appropriate for him to be on the, this, helping with this legal case. But a small group of students felt unsafe because now we inhabit this culture of fragility and safety. And that's fine. They can do what they want. They were out of bounds. I mean, there was graffiti where he had to walk with his young son.
So they protested, and this was what, like earlier this spring,
all
right?
last year.
Yeah, all last year.
And
what was the graffiti? Because he wrote. Wait, I think you've got on front of you is his recent op-ed.
"Down with Sullivan,"
Yeah.
and it was right there on Winthrop House where he lived. And he had to explain to his son why he's a hated figure. I'll tell you, if you are the focus of one of these rage mobs, it is distressing beyond belief, and it's also radicalizing. And Harvard has made an enemy of a brilliant, capable man and wife, 2 law professors. And so now he has a fantastic op-ed in the New York Times, why Harvard was wrong to make me step down. And I just want to read the last part. "Unchecked emotion has replaced thoughtful reasoning on campus. Feelings are no longer subjected to evidence, analysis, or empirical defense. Angry demands rather than rigorous arguments now appear to guide university policy." Now, there are those who say, oh, it's an exaggeration that universities are becoming, centers of irrationality. This is not an exaggeration. This is happening at the premier university. It's not the students. I mean, they caused it at the beginning, but it was administrators.
But they won, basically. He is stepping down.
Right.
And he did write this great protest where he pointed out, I think in this op-ed, that much of his work, in fact, has been representing victims of sexual
assault. Right.
But he believes that it's, that everybody deserves representation.
Of course.
And, but
this is a fundamental principle.
Except him at Harvard, where he didn't receive that. So.
And he was just,
and his whole long
he was
career.
humiliated
Yeah.
and left unprotected by the administration. And this is, to me, a sign of just serious degradation, just in a key institution. And what lesson are students learning? That's what worries me, is what lessons are they taking with it that you can just, and as he says, that unchecked emotion, just because they felt as if they weren't safe, that's ludicrous. And yet it was taken seriously by the Harvard dean and president.
Well, we've got a lot of those examples going on, and we always seem to have a new one each week, which is sad.
The madness is intensifying.
The madness is intensifying. We're also going to talk, because we're bringing on Andrew to talk about sort of the rising trans issues that we're facing. We've talked a lot about its effect on sports and others, female institutions. But England, which is sort of leading in all of this enforcement, is because they enacted something I think that's similar to the Equality Act that the LGBTQ lobbying group called the Human Rights Campaign is trying to enact here, which would a non-discrimination bill, a federal non-discrimination bill that would add gender equality to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. That already seemed to have gone through in England, I think in 2010, with the result that suddenly anyone who is quote unquote caught saying, men aren't women or women aren't men. Or
more than that, they have now instructed the advertising agency. I think they have 6 months to eliminate all gender stereotypes because these
in
are
ads
in the advertising. So I guess for toy catalogs, you've got to show
no more pink or blue
girls
aisles.
with dump trucks and boys with My Little Kitties.
My Little Pony. My Little Pony having a war with another My Little Pony.
Well, that's what'll happen. But it's so absurd, and
But this is serious. So what does that mean? You can't have what? Can you have?
Like showing a woman, you can reverse the stereotypes. That's fine.
So you could have a man selling lingerie reclining in a sexy position? But what does this mean?
I guess that's okay.
No woman in lingerie, I assume.
Well, anything that's likely to cause... No, as if this isn't vague. Anything that's likely to cause harm or serious or widespread offense. Well,
Whoa.
Now you have all of these students coming out of college, grievance collectors, ready to pounce. And so they're going to tie British advertising up in litigation forever. So what are they going to do? Probably the only thing to do is to have, the church lady, or something.
In lingerie. Or robot. What's actually...
Robots.
I've actually
Stuffed
read...
animals. Furries.
There was the...
That could be good.
There was the weirdest story that recently a New York ad... I'm sorry, I didn't bring it with me. I don't have it in front of me, but it sums it up, basically, that a New York ad agency invented this model that they put in an Instagram campaign and then created a scandal where she accused the head of the agency of sexual inappropriateness. And he made this up. It was all to get attention. But the model herself was like a generated image. She didn't, in fact, exist. and they wanted to get this kind of weird scandal controversy going about it. But I think but what you're saying is even if you have a sexy non-human human,
that could still trigger gender stereotypes. That could be hurtful.
Well, have you received? I got for the first time in the mail. I hate getting catalogs in the mail because
I would pay not to have. I would pay not to have mail.
I just feel like all these trees dying, and just dumping these huge glossy things.
They come in and I throw them out.
Right.
If I could pay, how much would you pay not to get?
I would actually pay a monthly fee to not receive it.
But pay it to the post office. Don't bring these things.
But I got a catalog. I think it was for bathing suits. And it was called, I was talking with Zoe about it. Was
Aries?
Alie? What was it?
Aerie.
Aerie. A-R-I-E?
A-E-R-I-E.
With responsibly proportioned women.
Yes.
Yes, and not just that, but
age enhanced.
Age enhanced, and they also have women that are missing limbs. So
a lot of them have tattoos,
yes.
I noticed.
Yes, and they don't Photoshop any of the pictures.
And they don't Photoshop. And
so
you know
freckles.
What? I was triggered. This is coming in with my... usual assortment of catalogs. I only look now, at the home decor ones. I'm that old. But anyway, this bathing suit catalog comes in. And it's filled with very realistic women. And
you can see that at Coney Island.
It was like going to Coney Island.
Oh my God.
It was tattoos. It was piercings. It was very misshapen... okay, I can't say misshapen bodies. Well, they were
oddly proportioned.
I would rather, look, it's a great thing, right? We all have to, especially bathing suits, we all have to find our fit. And, it's nice that you can see maybe how a bathing suit realistically
Looks
fits a
on a-
body, but I kind of like the fantasy world that advertising is supposed to transport us into.
Here is why this is fascism. It's because, first of all, advertising it is an art form, and they often bring in the best photographers, and it's about fantasy, and it's about kind of conjuring up images that are enjoyable and delightful and tantalizing, and now they're marching in, and it's sort of like Soviet realism is coming to,
boy meets tractor, girl meets bathing suit.
Do you remember one of my favorite ads? It probably dates me. Maybe it was in the 80s, and they had like the Soviet. They had some beautiful model, but no, we had to have the Soviet fashion show, and they had these.
This is sounding very Borat.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I look, and I think
it inhibits imagination. It's an attack on art, and as my friend Camille Paglia says, that the advertising industry is not run by patriarchal oppressors. It's run by gay males and women.
Well, look, and we've had the Model Alliance, Sarah Ziff, spokeswoman on, because it's also...
They don't have to have anorexics.
No, and it's also the modeling industry itself is this highly corrupt, exploitive, especially of young women. So we're not for that. In fact, actually, I think the guy with his Instagram fake woman, maybe that's the way to do it. If we know all of these women are fake fantasy conception, artist conceptions,
have
then we don't have
too.
to have body dysmorphia, because we can say, oh, but she's not real. She's just a beautiful image, and then we can retain our fantasy ideals.
What else bothers me about this is that they're actually encouraging people not to take care of themselves. Because when you see beautiful, healthy people in magazines, it sets a standard to aspire to. And I have seen no evidence that people are harmed by imagery in magazines. When you feel bad if your friends are looking a lot better than you.
That's true. Actually, isn't that the most... they did a study where the you are most susceptible in everything is to what your friends
look like, how they do. And if your friends take care of yourself, you probably will.
Yeah.
That's why because of you and Megan, I'm always on a diet.
We're all always on a diet.
I went on this ketone diet. Have you heard of this?
It's all was keto.
Keto.
Ketone.
I think that's a musical term.
That's a very old-fashioned music.
Well, Sally Sattel, who weighs like 1 pound, for some reason she's on this diet. She lost another pound.
Isn't it just like an Atkins? It's just all protein and no carbs. Is that
right? So I went
last for like
4
5
days.
minutes.
But then she said, well, you can have all the cream you want. I had cream and strawberries. And then during the presidential debate, I just broke down and had popcorn with, what is it, salt and sugary caramel.
Kettle corn?
Kettle corn.
Oh.
Does that
That's
count
not
as
the
a
worst thing.
No, popcorn is not the worst
I
thing.
lost 1 pound.
That was probably like gas.
Water. Champagne.
Well, I think just to put this whole catalog thing in perspective, because I know we're going to get criticism and say, well, you're just taking male standards of female beauty. Okay.
They're not male standards. They're gay and female standards.
Whatever standards we're taking on, and we're pressuring and we're giving women or advocating for body dysmorphia. Imagine, what's a men's catalog like? The Ben Silver tie catalog, or a
truck and cycle.
And
they're going to have...
imagine men with huge pot bellies and tattoos modeling the suits or the bathing suits. I don't think anybody would want that either.
The next is going to be in movies. We're going to have
the buff gay models.
No more cute people in movies. I don't think I'll like that. I like to see attractive people.
You are just Lucas.
I'm not Lucas.
Anyway, well, I think we now... After that, we should get to Andrew. Andrew,
gay males aren't going to like this.
What?
This move towards... there's a group that is very into personal excellence. And, if you look at gay male magazines, they are not...
Look, most models in the magazines we get are very buff gay men. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
Probably all of them.
but in any case, Andrew. So Andrew is, of course, columnist for New York Magazine. He's former editor of the New Republic, and he has authored or edited 6 books. But here's something that's so interesting that we'll get into with him. He is the recipient of the GLAAD Media Award for Outstanding Magazine Articles, the Lambda Literary Award for Gay Men's Studies, and now he's under attack by these same organizations.
By the Trans-Taliban.
By the Taliban, for what he's been writing about, and this whole twist in gay politics and really politics that affects us all, because it's now feminism. I mean, it's sort of your mind really does explode after a point, because you've got feminists who have always argued that gender is a construction, are now hastily trying to reclaim biological distinctions because it means that they are suddenly faced with trans men claiming to be women, claiming to have all the, oppression of women. And, but now these same feminists are saying that, going back to biological differences. Essentialism. Because now women's sports are being taken over. They're finding trans men in battered women's shelters and other spaces where, and also that these trans men are claiming to be sort of trying to, can we say, appropriate female and women's experience and saying they're women. And women are saying, well, wait a second. That's like, what was her name? Rachel Donazell, who impersonated a black woman for many, many years, head of the NAACP chapter in, where was she, Seattle, or but
someone said that trans movement is really sort of female appropriation, that they're appropriating, that it's like blackface for gender.
Yes, and
now, I don't believe that. I've said this before, and I'm sure Andrew agrees with me, that we're laissez-faire about people's sexual, whoever they are, we're accepting.
Yeah, like if you want to say, I'm a woman, that's fine.
If you want to say you are a pansexual, asexual, furry, live and let live. However,
I think you mean to say Furby.
No, furries.
Furries? What are furries? I know Furbies are furry.
Do I have to explain furries?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're people.
I thought, are they the women who don't shave?
No, that would be a better. That would be better.
Behind. Okay.
You're so behind.
Furries are people that dress up in like mascot costumes that are like full animals, and they pretend to be animals, and they have sex with other people that are dressed.
No, wait a minute.
As animals.
Let's not be furry phobic.
No,
I know.
Yes.
This is okay. Now this is a Monty Python sketch.
No, my mom accidentally stayed at a hotel where a convention was happening.
She saw it.
I don't want to see that.
I'm going to show you on our break.
Is there furry porn?
Oh yeah, that's where it started. That's
so this
why
is like what? Team mascots, Disney, those people in costumes at Disney World have secret.
But
the sexual lives.
It's that, but they're a very specific. Here. So this is what they all look like, and we can. It's a very specific, artist.
Beto used to be.
Oh, come on! Kids love those characters.
Them. And by the way, you're maligning furries. There's furryphobia. Not all furries.
No, this is a sexual thing.
Or not all furries are doing that.
Are they?
Although some in hotels,
what do you mean you're a furry?
Need, like cat furries, they demand to have cat litter.
Do they get hairballs?
So
they get cat.
So the whole point is
they have kitty litters.
Is that you never actually see what the person looks like, and when they have sex, they do it in the costume.
Okay, and this is now a category.
This has been a thing for a long time.
TF.
Beto O'Rourke
is a furry.
Been a furry. No. There's a photograph.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, hang on. You mean you believe you are the cat costume you're in or whatever?
No, it's not that you believe that you're the animal. It's that you like to have sex in costumes as animals.
It's not only about sex. I am in touch with the furry community.
You are. Is he a furry?
Is he in a costume? What?
I don't know. Somehow I got mixed up with the furries during Gamergate. There's a subset of furries in Gamergate,
Okay.
and I got to know them, and they said that there was a lot of false assertions. But
Okay.
nevertheless,
Okay.
how did we get to that?
I don't.
What? Oh, no,
I'm
I was
so
saying,
mind blown by
I was
this.
saying she's not ready for furries.
I'm not ready.
No,
for
I was
furries.
saying-
I was saying Furbies. That makes sense.
Live and let live. However, they are not practicing that philosophy. There is, in the trans community, and Andrew will tell us about that, but I think it's Julie Bindel, the great British journalist, and very critical of the excesses of the trans movement. She calls them the trans Taliban. And they are trying to destroy people, especially in England, who dare to challenge them. And now a growing number of women, and possibly J.K. Rowling, who was called out on this website, Mary Sue, yesterday. Or
Mary
who was
Sue.
called out, Mary Sue. Yeah, it's kind of some, what the hell is it?
It sounds like a British version of like Mary Claire.
I don't know, like Jezebel.
But that's a very female name. But anyway, go on.
Extreme feminists. They've called her out because they've traced, they've tracked, like, their follower police. They track who she follows on Twitter, and she's following what they deride as TERFs, trans exclusionary radical feminists. I reject that term. They are called critical feminists. That's what the great Julie Bindel is. And there's just these wonderful feminists. I don't agree with them. I mean, Julie Bindel is like a kind of a male averse feminist separatist. I could disagree with her on many issues, but I want her to have she's very smart. She's funny. I want her to have a right to make her argument. She has some good arguments. They don't want the arguments made. She was almost attacked. She came close to being punched at a recent conference by a big guy. A trans person.
Well, that's the sort of mind-reeling thing about this is that, we have another article in front of us. We have the Julie Bindel. We have a woman named Maya Forstater. Again, this is in England. And she's like, these are big feminists. They've worked. It's never occurred to them that anything like this is wrong. They've been on the forefront of these feminist movements. And this woman, she said, I lost my job for speaking out on women's rights and gender self-ID in social media. And now she's doing like a crowdfunding thing for her legal fees.
And they get called names, like I think this was Julie Bindel. The people were shouting and ranting while she was speaking. You're an effing cunt. You're an effing bitch. You're an effing TERF. And they're facing this kind of harassment
Because
it's violence against women in the name of liberation. No, I'm sorry, that doesn't work.
Right. Anyway, but let's bring on Andrew, and let's get his perspective on this.
But first, a word from our sponsor.
Okay, Christina, I'm very excited to introduce this new sponsor. Do you remember, well, you don't even have to remember, every week we transport our cocktails or our wine to the studio. We have what we call the cocktail baskets, a little basket, and we stick whatever we're drinking in it. We pour it in insulated coffee cups. And one time, very recently,
all spilled.
You put some red wine in your beautiful gold
It spilled, and it got all over everything and my papers, and it compromised the podcast.
It did, and and you reeked for a long while. You sounded like you smelled like a serious alcoholic. Well, anyway, okay, our new sponsor is saving us from this. It's called Brewmate. That's BRUMATE. And this is a company you're going to fall over when I tell you. Started by a young man named Dylan when he was 21 in 2016. He was at a concert, and he noticed that all these beer cans were on the ground. And he hated those little, what do you call them, foozy things or whatever you put them in that don't fail to keep them cold. So he decided we needed something better. And he has created this line of incredibly elegant, gorgeous, practical,
ecologically sound
transports and drinking vessels for your wine, for your beer. They even have a large insulated champagne flute, so you can put your wine, and the containers are wine shaped. You can pour a bottle, but here's the best part: they come with cups, and the insulated cups, not only are elegant, they are designed for alcohol, so they don't have the little sippy coffee thing. They've got a proper way to sip it. And, Christina, you could fit a whole half bottle in one cup.
Ooh.
So
Sneak it in. You know, like when you go to the theater and then you want a glass of wine, you have to pay $11 and wait in line. And then you can't take it back in.
And it's not usually very good wine.
And it's terrible. So you take your favorite wine, you put it in this elegant,
deceptive,
and put it in your bag and just, go right back.
And they have these gorgeous flasks that you can just put in your purse and be even more discreet. Go to the
for
site.
Picnics. It's
Picnics, anything.
Yeah.
I mean, he got apparently Dylan had wine on a beach, an open bottle, and he got ticketed for that. So because you weren't supposed to have glass on the beach. So this just solves so many problems for so many people, especially this summer. And just go check out the site Brumate, BRUMATE.com, and you'll see what we're talking about. And if you use the discount code FEMSPLAIN, you'll get 15% off your first order. That's discount code FEMSPLAIN for 15% off your first order. Don't settle for warm or spilled alcohol.
Or detectable.
Welcome to the Femsplainers.
At last.
At last. We've been trying to have you on for months and months, and now you're not even in the studio with us having rosé. You're in Provincetown.
Yeah.
Doing, what are you drinking? What are you...
Smoking?
I'm having a nice glass of cold filtered water.
Yes.
And a rather lovely and uplifting indica joint, which I will attempt to start smoking now.
Okay, well,
I want to keep up.
Give us a little Joe Rogan vibe.
Yeah, I don't know. We're not really Joe Rogan. I don't think we've ever had someone on the podcast who joined us with this type of cocktail.
I was on Joe Rogan, and everybody asked me if I had smoked.
Uh-oh. He's dying. We've lost him already.
Everyone wanted to know if I'd smoked a joint there. But he didn't offer it.
He didn't?
No.
Maybe it's bringing BYOJ.
I know.
Andrew, have we still got you, or have you fallen off
You
your...
have, yes.
Okay, good. Good.
I am not JV.
I can't even imagine doing a podcast high. I mean, it's one thing to be a little buzzed with liquor, but... What happens, Andrew? I guess we'll find out.
Yes, we will, and it'll get progressively worse or better.
Or
psychedelic.
Better. All right, well, if you're having a bad... Sorry.
It doesn't disable me in the slightest. It actually kind of a little bit really helps you think and loosens your brain up a little bit.
Okay, well, we're looking forward to this. This is a first. So, Andrew, what we wanted to really talk to you about is the fact that you're no longer gay, apparently.
No, he's no longer oppressed. Gay males, especially white gay males, are now little better than cis white male hegemons, heterosexual.
But are you still counted as gay? Like, what has happened, Andrew? Can you explain what has happened to gay politics that you are now not the pioneer that you were, but, as Christina says,
an enemy.
A potential dead white man.
An oppressor.
It was particularly oppressive to fight and pioneer marriage equality. That's what they will never forgive me for. Look, what's happened simply is that, seems to me, we won. And people won't take yes for an answer.
Right.
I mean, when you think of where we are as gay people in 2019 compared to where we were even in, 2009, it's a revolution. And yet, the gay Inc. or the gay establishment is constantly telling us we are absolutely under siege. We are fighting every day against a grinding oppression, that we gay white men now are no longer in a gay rights movement. We're in the LGBTQ critical gender and queer theory movement. that regards us essentially as the oppressors. Those of us who are white and that self-identify as male, those of us who are male-bodied persons, you know this language, Christina.
Yes.
We are, we're part of the problem now. And the weird thing about the movement, if you want to call it that, is it's all funded by, a huge amount of it is funded by gay white men. At some point, there's going to come a time when gay white men are going to stop funding people who trash them all the time. And I think a lot of gay people who aren't solid lefties have kind of migrated away. And that's the other thing. When the sane, moderate people have achieved what they want to achieve, we've kind of withdrawn, because my view is now's the time to get on with our lives. So who's left is always the extreme. And what's also happened is that transgender ideology has taken over gay rights movement. The very term LGBTQ is a lie. There's no one who has an LGBTQ identity. There is no such thing as an LGBTQ person. There are lesbians, there are bisexuals, there are gay men, and there are transgender people. And they have very different experiences. And the transgender experience, I think, is extremely different from the gay experience and needs to be understood as that and needs to be explained as such, carefully, slowly, openly. I know so many transgender people who just want to say to people, for reasons no one understands, my brain is telling me I'm one sex, and my body is telling me I'm another. And I would like society to treat me with dignity and respect and equality. And I think if transgender people, not these crazy activists, were able and willing to make that case, the simple scientific case of finding a way to integrate transgender people fully into our culture with the least amount of indignity and cruelty and unfairness.
Oh, it's Christina here, and
that's my position, and I fear that they have not learned the lessons. Those of us who kind of did a hostile takeover of the gay rights movement in the late 80s and 90s and pushed military service and marriage as the issues in the teeth of extreme opposition from the gay community for about 10 years. And then when we've achieved our goal 10, 15 years later, we're done. Now, there are some states where you need to have employment discrimination laws, and that's something I think we should work on and focus on, especially in those states which are red states in which people are already somewhat defensive. But half the gay population already has those employment discrimination protections. In the states where they have them, for example, in California, the number of lawsuits that arise over discrimination in employment is really rather small. It's not by no means the biggest category of discrimination. In fact, religion is now a higher reason for discrimination than being gay.
Well, that's how far...
stunned you into silence.
Actually, can we just... Excellent analysis, Andrew, and I completely agree with you that the trans movement, it's a legitimate human rights movement, and people are open to hearing the case. Many are persuaded, and certainly me, certainly you, Danielle, that the deserving of tolerance and understanding and being accepted. However, suddenly what's happened is, because of the current leadership, if you challenge any aspect of this movement and question whether or not young children who claim to be trans or appear to be trans should be given, treatments early on, or if trans women should be able to compete in sports where they were almost guaranteed to win in competitions among women. You bring that up, then you're called transphobic.
Yes, and there's a really troubling sign, it seems to me, in the data we're now getting. There's an annual report that they put out, that the GLAAD puts out, which is the Gay Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, called Accelerating Acceptance. And it polls everybody every year on how they feel about, now they say LGBTQ people or LGBTQ issues. And there's almost no change in the vast majority. But you know what's fascinating? The one generation that is now moving swiftly away from acceptance of LGBTQ people are the millennials. Mm-hmm. For the first time, we've seen millennial support among millennials, especially young women, collapse. I mean, seriously collapse. They won't talk about this very much because they don't want to talk about it, because it's a terrible and worrying setback for the movement. I believe that it's almost entirely because they make them talk about LGBTQ people. They don't distinguish between gays, lesbians, bisexuals, and transgender people. And I think the younger generation that has been assaulted and subjected to transgender critical gender theory ideas of what this is, finally begin to say, this is bullshit. No. And if supporting gay rights means supporting the fact that there's no difference between me, who's grown up as a woman, and someone who has a full set of male organs, eventually they're just going to say, we don't believe that. We see it with our eyes. We don't have a problem with transgender people, but we do have a problem with being told that our gender is kind of illegitimate.
Well, let me. You've written two major pieces about this for New York Magazine. I think you wrote one in January or one in May. Maybe you've written three, if ever. But where you really explore this problem of we're no longer allowed to separate. I mean, this has been going on in the women's movement for the longest time. For the longest time, gender was a construct. We weren't allowed to look at biological differences. And then with the trans movement coming along, suddenly feminists are saying, and you witnessed this at the Heritage Foundation, where radical feminists came to speak to a bunch of conservatives because that was the only place they could get a hearing, that they were worried about this assertion that a man is a woman, and that man is going to come and compete in sports and come into female spaces like women's shelters,
women's prisons,
and that their identities as women were being now questioned. So it is a kind of mind-blowing set of facts, whereas you pointed out in one of your article that these radical feminists are talking to Trump supporters, religious right members, and that's the crowd they're in because they're being ostracized from the gay movement.
Yeah, and let's just give you some stats because they are quite shocking. We're talking about the millennial, 18 to 34 years old. In 2016, 62% of young men regarded themselves as allies. In 2018, 35%. So it's a near halving of support. Women who say they're allies of the gay rights movement dropped from 65% to 52%.
Well, on campus,
36% of young people said they were uncomfortable learning a family member was LGBTQ in 2018, compared with 29% in 2017 and 24% in 2016. So 2016 is the moment that this suddenly changes in the younger generation. And you ask yourself, what happened in 2016?
Yeah.
And of course, the Obama administration's fiat, really, that every school in the country has to abolish the idea of two genders and two sexes, undoubtedly, I think, has fueled this. I also think when young gay men young straight men feel that they're being told by those same people that they're toxic, that they're basically responsible for oppressing half of humanity, at some point they're going to say, no, we're not. Fuck off. And that's what's happening. And I'm very worried about it, to be honest.
We're all worried. I was thinking about your 2016 distinction, because I mean, aside from obviously the election of Donald Trump, which people and I think some of the gay rights groups that you mentioned are blaming that, on the rise of homophobia as anti-Semitism and everything else. But
that's one of the. But even they say they think the emergence of non-binary and trans people in young people's lives is likely to be a function of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, why suddenly no one's really thinking about trans people except in ways that you mentioned, which is to be sympathetic or empathetic. And now suddenly it's everywhere. And as you say, we're being told that, and we were watching in England, we were talking about this before you came on, where the law has changed. You cannot publicly say a man is not a woman and vice versa, and people are losing their jobs if they do it. Can you explain how this suddenly came about?
And that we have to say that now that trans men can get pregnant? Someone said it.
That was actually a fantastic moment in the debates.
Julian
Castro promised that trans women can all get abortions.
But there can't be this many trans people. Like, in the end, you sort of have to say, well, how...
Trans women can't have abortions because they don't have wombs.
You're going to be thrown off Twitter, Andrew.
Trans men can, though.
Men can.
But when did this, we're talking still about a tiny segment, I assume, of the population, and yet it's overwhelming discussion. How has that happened?
I think it comes from the elites. I really do. I think it comes from, as almost everything else now on the left, from being told that biology has nothing to do with sex or gender in college as fact, and also being steeped when they get out in critical queer theory, critical gender theory, critical race theory.
Mm-hmm.
So this analysis, this left analysis, has completely absorbed liberalism in this country at this point, and the gay rights movement is just another aspect of that, in which all this gobbledygook is being reproduced. Let me say something about pronouns too, because I also wanted to say I really passionately believe in protecting transgender people. And I'm really offended by people who keep deliberately and maliciously calling people by the wrong pronoun, the other gender, or worse, saying that trans people don't exist or that they're just mentally ill. And that's what Ben Shapiro and the right are saying. And what Ben Shapiro says about this is really disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
He could make perfectly decent arguments without simply saying there's no such thing as a transgender person. They're all making it up.
Well, this goes back to gay criticism too, that you guys could be all converted out of it, and
he doesn't like us very much.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
but of course, I'm now regarded as this white supremacist, homophobic bigot within the gay community, and I also find that depressing.
Well, I'm what do they call me? A known fascist and a male supremacist enabler.
Well, you guys are kind of depressing me because I haven't got any of those names thrown against me.
Oh dear!
Like I feel like I'm not a member of this great club.
you say that this comes, and I think you're right. It's really coming out of the universities, and then maybe these young graduates, I don't know, they go and work for New York Magazine, the New York Times. They carry these ideas with them. So now critical theory starts as race theory, then it goes to, queer theory, and here it is. And these theories have never really been investigated by anyone outside a small coterie of true believers. And it's you have certainly discussed intersectionality and its weaknesses, but I'm worried that there aren't more academics taking a look at what is being taught, what's ideas that are being taken seriously, not challenged in our best universities.
Yeah, well, they're terrified of actually stating their opinion. They know that if they do, their careers are effectively over. It's true also, for example, in Britain, anybody that shows even the slightest inclination to question some of these social justice theories is subjected to an absolute bombardment of abuse. Or good, independent-minded, liberal journalists like Jesse Singal, who wrote so carefully and so empathetically, but was inquiring into the treatment of children or teens who are expressing dysphoria of some kind or other. And poor Jesse, he is simply assailed at every minute and called the most appalling names and demeaned and derided and lied about systematically the things they say about you, with no desire to actually tell the truth. They're also on the defensive. The only people that can really stand and end this would be those transgender people who live lives, who don't even know what critical gender theory is, who just experience themselves as completely conflicted about their sex, and not completely conflicted about their sex, but in fact they're very clear about the fact that they're one gender and not the other. Transgender people in general are very supportive of a sex binary. If there weren't a sex binary, why would you be trans?
Of course.
How can you be trans anything if there aren't actually two separate poles? You go from one to the other. That's the other thing about so much of this transgender ideology. It's completely incoherent.
It's incoherent. And why isn't more written about it?
It's completely disorienting for people. And I think the other thing is, we used to say, okay, let's tell you our stories, let us explain. And people would, when you do that again and again and again and again, people change their minds. Mm-hmm. Currently, the position is, it is beneath us to persuade anybody else that we are right. In fact, that's emotional labor,
right,
that simply contributes to oppression.
Well,
so fuck you.
Well, Andrew, you have actually written, I think, more profoundly and deeply about this than anywhere. I mean, just as even from an intellectual honesty, where you are trying to be compassionate. You've certainly been on the front lines of gay rights, and one of the, I thought, really interesting insights you had is, in a sense, that this debate is also about a right to be desired, in that we all want to be desired, but you're transphobic if you don't desire a trans person. And you wrote, and so it's not transphobic for a gay man not to be attracted to a trans man. It is close to definitional. The core of the traditional gay claim is that there is indeed a very big difference between male and female, that the difference matters, and without it, homosexuality would make no sense at all. So the whole defining point of you is that you are attracted to men, not of you essentially, but, as a gay man. A lesbian is attracted to women. And if a lesbian is not attracted to a trans woman, is she then de facto, transphobic?
She is.
Yeah.
And this is why many lesbians are, as you know, very unsettled by this. And some very radical feminists are openly at war, really, with this attempt to say there is absolutely no difference. By which I mean no difference whatsoever between them and another woman.
And especially with trans women, and it's like, and if you don't fucking believe it, I'm gonna kick,
Yeah.
these terrifying, hulking women coming at and being very. I mean, it's not even a joke. They're being incredibly aggressive. They're name calling. They call these women TERFs, and it's scary.
It's concentrated though, Danielle, among the younger generations. This kind of, I mean, it's always been a difficult topic, and people are very sensitive about it.
Mm-hmm.
But the younger generation is particularly bonkers about this, and they've been told to be bonkers, and they've been instructed that not only being bonkers is okay, it's a moral obligation, and this has led to a horrible atmosphere. And what I'm arguing is this will undo. It can be undone, the progress that we've made. If the next generation is moving away from LGBTQ people, then we're losing the culture war. It should be called decelerating acceptance, not accelerating acceptance. And we need to think very hard about what messages and how we're doing it. Strike people. It's so important on these questions to appeal to, say, straight people and talk to them about what we have in common. I mean, imagine growing up in one body and really, for reasons you have no idea why, you feel like you're the other sex. It's probably because in the womb, in the process of an embryo becoming a newborn baby, all sorts of hormonal washes occur. Critical testosterone washes or estrogen washes, in which the fetus is gendered, is turned into one or the other. We're all default females at the beginning, but then that process takes place. It's a messy process, and I think for some people, the washes lead development between their brain and the rest of their body, and we have to understand that's also a terribly difficult thing to live with. Mm-hmm. And it's a real challenge. And it can be very depressing, and people kill themselves. And the last thing I want to do is to have this aggressive neo-Marxist definition of transgenderism as part of a broad attempt to revolutionize society, kill a movement that simply wants equality for these human beings and a better understanding of the issues they tackle. So, for example, you take the bathroom issue. I do think that I do think we made too big a fuss about this, and frankly, I don't think there have been almost any incidents anywhere of what people have fantasized could happen. In fact, most of the time, the people who are most at risk are the transgender people themselves. So I think that was an issue that was almost created to divide people.
Mm-hmm. But you know what's so sad, Andrew, is that there's a sense among the more radical activists is that they feel that they're on the forefront of, revolutionary change, and a lot of well-meaning, liberal-minded adults just look at it and say, okay, this is just the younger generation. This is what they're doing. And I look at it and say, no, these hardliners and this cancel culture, the intolerance for anyone who questions them, that came from bad arguments in university classrooms where other forms of gay activism or liberation were not taught. And so it's almost, I feel like it's an indoctrinated generation rather than a liberated, sort of spontaneous.
Yeah, the first generation of rebellious students that secretly obey their professors.
Yes.
They're the most docile generation imaginable. It's just the professors want them to be the vanguard of a new revolution. And look, it's kind of thrilling to think that you're going to somehow change the reality of the world. It's not like this kind of ideological extremism hasn't occurred many, many times in history. I think also there is a simple problem for some of these movements, like the gay rights movements. They have established themselves as massive financial entities. They raise a huge and spend a huge amount of money. And they have very cushy jobs, and they earn six-figure salaries, and they don't want to give all that up. For them to concede that gay rights was basically one that they would have to shut down would never occur to them. So what happens is they shift it to trans from gays. They shift it to trans. That's the only way they can keep themselves in business. And there is a business here. And I think that dynamic of these anti-discrimination organizations that need there to be hatred, violence, and oppression to justify the amount of money they suck out of the gay community.
Well, what I've noticed also is that now many college women who would once have said they were lesbians now call themselves trans. And people think, oh, well, if you're trans, you have to take hormones, and maybe there's an operation. No, they're just calling themselves trans. So the numbers have increased. The constituency is growing.
The disappearance of the Butch Dyke is what... I know I sound like David Attenborough.
No, you would say the disappearance of the Butch Dyke.
Here we are.
Yeah, here we are.
In the Butch Dyke's natural environment.
And she's nowhere to be found.
We're watching their mating rituals. There is unfortunately no glamorous, colourful display. Well,
all right, that joint is kicking in, Andrew. Go.
That's what's kicking in. And now I forgot what I was talking about. Well, it was.
It was.
Yes.
People deciding that they're trans rather than gay or lesbian or whatever.
What they see is a young woman who acts like a dude and who thinks more like a dude than a woman, and he won't put up frilly dresses and all the rest of it. And therefore they say that person must be a man. Or trans. But in fact, she's just lesbian. She's a woman who is expanding the range of manifestations of womanhood.
Right.
What they're doing, it seems to me, is forcing these kids into stereotypes. Classic gender stereotypes.
Absolutely.
And I think
Sorry, go ahead.
in some ways, insofar as ambiguous, gender dysphoric, young kids and teens, most of them, 80% in fact, will become gay. Most of them are gay. But if you want to abolish really the idea and have to force them to be, or encourage them to take hormones or alter their bodies inalterably, making themselves sterile in order to make themselves the other gender, it's essentially a war on gays. It's essentially a way in which it's very similar to Iran.
Wow. Okay. Take us there, Andrew. Take us there.
Iran has is the country with the most sex reassignment in the world. If a kid is thought to be girly, a boy, or a woman to be boyish, that offends them, and so they surgically alter them to conform to the way they're behaving. So that when Ahmadinejad came to the UN and said we have no homosexuals in Iran, everybody laughed. He was actually telling the truth, in as much as he was saying we turn every homosexual into the other gender so that they can conform to our pre-existing gender roles.
Well, there's also...
See what I'm saying?
Yes, no, exactly.
it's provided free by the state. The government will provide free reassignment surgery for any teen, child, or adult.
Well, it's also there now where it's hard to do the actual science on this. So you've got people studying, people who are experts and psychiatrists in, sexual psychiatry at Northwestern, at the Clark Institute in Toronto, very reputable people. And they're trying to separate, like you can break down the trans, whatever it makes you feel like a man or woman trapped in the opposite sex body, that there are those who are sort of clearly homosexual trans, and then there are other people who like just to try on the opposite, women's clothing. But even this is under attack now. Instead of trying to be able to understand in a scientific way, not in a religious way like Iran, how do we parse this? Why, is a man who is heterosexual who puts on women's clothes, is he really a trans? That those people are now coming under attack. Yeah, they're coming under attack for that.
Let me and a lot of people on the right who don't really know anything but feel uncomfortable, they mix up all sorts of things. So I think, for example, there's a huge fuss about drag queens telling stories in local libraries.
Yes.
Now, drag queens are not transgender.
And the trans activists go after them.
And they act as, they're basically clowns. They're sort of clown figures. There's nothing sexual whatsoever about a drag queen. They're obviously caricatures that have no ability, in most cases, to be attractive. Cross-dressers are just dudes, straight dudes, often with wives who just like to wear big frocks in public. It's great in Provincetown. We have a week for everyone, and there's a week in September, exactly those couples. So you come here, I think it's the third week of September, and we call it, the locals rather cheekily, Tall Ships Week, because the dudes walking around in these big frocks, often floral, they look like tall ships passing by, especially in comparison to their wives, who are almost always walking next to them with a look on their face that is really impossible for me to convey. But
I think we can imagine.
Nothing to do with transgender people.
Well, but that's, in a way, it's an appropriation. I mean, maybe the lesbians and the feminists should say, well, this is female appropriation. I mean, why
it's
are
like
you
the gendered equivalent of blackface?
Right. Why are you able to tell us,
imitate us,
and tell us what our experience is? And you say you're a woman, and you have never experienced being a woman biologically. Maybe that's the way to start. I mean, using their own language.
Except I don't want to go after the drag queens, and some of them
not the drag queens. I mean, some
of them are gorgeous.
No, we all love RuPaul's Drag Race. Like, it's not that so much. I'm thinking more of the trans activists who are saying you are saying
absolutely.
I am not a woman, or well, actually, no. You're trying to appropriate. I mean, my experience and who I am.
Look, they will come for the drag queens at some point, because given their views about cultural appropriation and indeed misogyny, and there really is a strain of misogyny in
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. Look, this is a glorious tiny little subculture of people that are often lovely human beings, and are wonderful people, and funny as all out.
Yeah.
So I will defend them to the fucking death. And if the PC Brigade tries to stop drag queens from performing, which is only a matter of time, I think, then we're going to have to man barricades.
Well, look,
I actually told a conservative friend of mine, you know what? If conservatives want to survive, get the drag queens on your side. Well, just, because...
that was also an advantage at Stonewall, of course.
Yes.
Yes.
But I'll tell you, one of the reasons I'm really proud of Provincetown is that it's super gay and super liberal, obviously, but it still has a sort of libertarian streak in which anybody can come here and do whatever their thing, and everything is okay. The P in P-Town stands for permission. You get permission to do whatever you want here. And that including someone like me within that community, because I've been coming for years, or it includes very politically incorrect drag queens. It includes a whole range of people under the umbrella of freedom of expression. So I really love this town partly because it has not surrendered.
It still has its sense of humor.
And I think there's an element among gays and lesbians, but particularly amongst gay men, that just resist any sort of coordination. They will at some point rebel, because we're rebels at heart in as much as we've developed a culture that really makes fun of people, that makes fun of ourselves. Let me give you an example. I remember when we were, in '93 it was, when we were having a serious march in Washington, D.C., and it was around when Clinton initiated the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy. And I was really nervous. We'd obviously been, the Democrats had capped us. And so I wanted this march to be incredibly serious, everybody dressed right, no bullshit. And then I come across this huge contingent of dudes in big, massive hats, crazy hats. And then they have a big sign above them saying, "Gays in the Millenary." And we're the only rights movement that puns. And there will always be that element of humor and rebellion here, I think. And you know, if you know and talk to gay men off the record, they're not political ideologues. They just want to get on with their lives. And they don't understand even, I think, the kind of ideology and worldview that is behind a lot of this. And that's my worry about liberals in general. They keep thinking this is like an enthusiastic or maybe over enthusiastic or passionate, a younger movement. They don't seem to understand that this springs from an ideology which is implacably opposed to liberal democracy. In fact, believes that liberal democracy is a mask for white supremacy.
That's right.
And should be dismantled on those grounds.
Well, after reading your articles, Andrew, I came away actually with a term in my head that said biological communism. And this is, right? We're not allowed to we all have to be the same. We're not allowed to make distinctions, biological or otherwise. And I also took away as a woman that in the end, it's also, and I can see why feminists are mad, that the women are in the end getting the short end of the stick on this, because you wrote a great column on women's sports and how this is going to lead, that there is simply no way that women are going to be able to, the fastest women in the world will not be able to compete against, for all purposes, a male competitor if he calls himself a man. And as you pointed out, that this isn't a problem for male sports, that there's no threat that a trans man is going to go win the javelin.
Maybe figure skating.
Darts. Women, they are under threat from darts. But I mean, this is the thing, right? That it's women, even if you disagree about the bathrooms or whatever, but the bathrooms bleeds into the women's shelters. It bleeds into the sports. It's women who are losing, in a way, those female spaces, and the things that we have taken so long, like to get professional women's sports, to get professional women's leagues, and now these are threatened.
Yeah, so when you have to think back through the ideology. The ideology is that these scientific and biological distinctions between men or women, or even any biological explanations of homosexuality, are all functions that don't have any basis in reality. They're all simply constructs in our minds that we have created. And all these constructs we call science and biology are actually pure inventions to sustain white supremacy,
right.
straight white supremacy. So the idea that we're even going to recognize that the problem here is not going to occur. There are no men or women. There are male-bodied persons and female-bodied persons. That's how abstracted you get. And almost all classical liberal thought, everything the founders thought, is an illusion. And that's where they're coming from.
Okay, that's where they're coming from. Where are they going? What is the end game here? And you once wrote that it's like a religion, but it lacks salvation. You said it's just life is like an interlocking drama of oppression, power, resistance, ending only in death. I mean, where is it going?
Andrew's known for his optimism.
Ta-Nehisi's view is incredibly bleak. I mean, he thinks that we live in a world of constant white supremacy.
This is Ta-Nehisi
that
Coates.
will never end. I mean, he says this explicitly.
Yeah. Oppression all the way down. Not turtles, oppression.
Yeah, and so when you push in, you look at Ta-Nehisi's thought, and when you push, it would require coercion and an authoritarian state in order to reorder along the lines. But even if they were to do that, whiteness, this hideous concept, would exist in people's minds and still oppress less white people. And that will never end. So we can never actually get anywhere. We can just struggle every day knowing that the struggle is worth it. I mean, it's Marx without the happy ending.
Okay, well, on that happy note, Andrew, you did have a wonderful paragraph in one of your stories arguing why we should acknowledge sexual differences. And you said, why are the differences between men and women on average so offensive? Why is it problematic that men are physically stronger on average than women? Who, after all, would want to live in a world like this where we are all interchangeable, where nature is irrelevant, where men are the same as women, and where acknowledging the variations of humanity is relegated to the precincts of bigotry? How much drearier than the actual, diverse, fascinating world that we live in? How do you think that's going to be outlawed?
I really hope not. Look, I think the term I've sort of come up with is that the left right now believes in life and the world is just a series of intersectional oppressions. And I think that life in the world is a sort of intersection of human freedoms. That what we have in this intersectionality, if you want, which is that we're all connected in various identity forms, which is self-evident, that this is a wonderful form of creativity and of freedom. And one thing you don't hear about from the left is it's very similar to Donald Trump. You never hear them talk of freedom. It's as if it doesn't really appeal to them. And of course, if you're just a cog in an ethnic wheel, why should it? But that's what this movement is against. And I think it's why eventually it will fail. And it will fail because people don't want to live like that.
Do you see any signs of rebellion that it's not going to succeed? Pushback?
I don't know. I think that Trump has polarized everything. He's made the polarization even worse.
Well, he's an expression, really, of the polarization.
Yeah,
it was polarized before, too.
Yeah, but it's gotten worse. And you look at those Democratic debates and you see how much of Democratic Party policy is now entirely a response to Trump.
Yeah.
It's unprecedented, it seems to me, for Democrats to openly say, we don't want to make it a crime to enter here without papers. If you come here, you'll immediately get lodgings, a work permit, and a court date, and then you're just released. And
then you can have a driver's
right.
license.
And that's yes, and that's the meaning of America. And to some extent, it was kind of the meaning of America in like the 1880s, maybe, when we didn't have these kind of organized nation states, where international travel was extremely rare. Well,
but in the intersectional calculus, the United States is just the supreme expression of white supremacy, colonialism, and all of the other isms. And this thinking is now inside the Democratic Party.
Yeah, think of recently, this week actually, the moderate Democrats persuaded Pelosi to accept the Senate bill that granted $4.6 billion to aid the humanitarian crisis at the border. And the AOC caucus didn't want to do that because they wanted to make sure that there were no funds available to enforce the immigration laws in the package. And they were prepared to hold up the humanitarian aid in order to make that point. And when they lost, you can see one of AOC's staffers tweeting out that these moderate Democrats should really be called the Southern Democrats. They're just the same. They treat black and brown people poorly. The immediate recourse on the left to the only reason you could believe one thing over another is that you're a racist.
Yeah.
And that ends the conversation.
I hope sometime the world will shift, that you are not as pessimistic, but you, sadly, as we've discovered, we've known you for a long time, you predicted Trump the week before. Your pessimism is always.
I know. I heard
it's
you
always
and I
right.
thought, oh, Andrew's so naive.
Andrew's so dark.
Trump will not win, and then he won. Oh my God! Are you not predicting he's winning next time?
Oh no.
Are you?
I don't know.
I know last night's debate. I thought
the Democratic candidate nominee is vowing to end all private insurance and to increase mass immigration into the country, then I think he could easily be reelected.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Okay.
Anyway, just a little fact, one more item about buggery.
Oh, yes, good.
Not that we were talking about it.
There's a system whereby the older boys have younger boys to do their shit work.
Hang on, which system? Where are we?
We're
right
talking
now?
about Oxford,
now in the private
British public schools, so-called.
Okay. Let me just
tell public schools.
Okay, let me tell our listeners that before Andrew came on and we were having some technical problems, we got into this conversation that involved Christopher Hitchens, and then I asked, what is it about those English boarding schools where heterosexual men can be gay for a bit, and we kind of related this to Christopher a little, but they're not gay, and then you actually began to explain this to me, and it was so interesting, but it didn't make the air. But let's do it now, Andrew. Go. Stay a few more minutes. Tell us now.
Basically, I went to an all boys high school in England, and I was gay, and no one laid a finger on me. I was also an altar boy, and no one laid a finger on me. So
Sound disappointed.
I mean, what am I, chopped liver?
Don't go there.
I'm sorry.
That's how I feel about meeting Donald Trump, and he didn't make a pass at me. I feel the same way, Andrew.
So the reason is my high school was a day school. It was is a state school that was publicly funded. Anybody could go there. And so we went home at night. But when you're actually in these boarding schools and you sleep next to each other and live with each other, have no real access to the outside world for months on end, and have no women of your age or very much any age in the context, and you are 13, 14, 15, you're the horniest you'll ever be in your entire life. Of course, they're going to get off a little without being gay. The only thing that you can't do is actually attach any emotion to that buggery or feel in any way connected emotionally to the person who's buggering you on a regular basis. And the buggering happens generationally. So the younger boys basically become the servants of the older boys. They do all their awful work, all the shit they have to do that they don't really want to do.
Oh, that's where the word
and they
unpronounceable. Isn't that where the word
boys,
FAG comes from?
No, that's bundle of sticks is according to Scrabble.
They had to bring the sticks to make their fires in the morning.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Well, anyway,
Moving on.
anyway, the younger guy who was the object of, who was basically a slave who also got buggered, was called in Eton a fag.
That's
the origin.
Right.
What did I just say?
Yep, you did.
It didn't mean that they were gay at all. It just meant you were the fag of the year, or you were still a fag because you were a servant to an older boy.
Because they had to bring sticks to make fires for them in their rooms. No, because that's the origin of the word. I'm sorry.
The origin of the slang. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But moving on.
So but that seems to be a very, am I wrong, English thing, except as you said, in prisons this happens. But this seems to be a very uniquely British thing.
No. Obviously, sex goes on all the time in prisons in America. I mean, all the time. And there's no women to do it with, so you tend to do it with men. And similarly to boarding schools, there's a sort of hierarchy of how that occurs. It's very difficult to keep men all together in one spot for a period of time and none of them to have any sex. It's not going to happen.
Well, you're right. The Americans don't have that, and other countries, many, don't have that boarding school culture, that very unique boarding school culture that the Brits have, which starts at like age 7, you get sent away.
But wait. Didn't you go to Girl Scout camp?
That's relegated to the upper classes. It's acceptable and done in the very upper classes.
Right.
They get a pass.
Yes, that you're allowed to have those.
In the real world in England, for a long time, if you had any same-sex relationship, you're beaten up.
Right, but that's sort of what I think of as the traditional response. But you're saying this is an elite product of men being kept for so long from an early age. They send them away at what, 7? 7, really, right?
Also, they're there in the teenage years, quarantining 500 boys with no female contact and having them board in the same place. Of course, there's going to be opportunistic homosexuality.
But you know what, Andrew? I really resent what you're saying because you're, again, drawing distinctions between men and women. And I don't know that this happens so much in girls' boarding schools.
Like at Girl Scout camp? We didn't do that.
We didn't do that, Andrew.
There was whittling.
No.
Whittling. A macrame. Remember those bracelets you made with plastic? You know, that's what we did, Andrew.
Beadwork.
Look, I think men are just hornier all the time.
Well, there you are, imposing stereotypes. Okay, that was fascinating. I'm glad we got that in before we ended. And thank you again, Andrew. We so appreciate you coming on. It's been so great. We've wanted to have you on, and we want to have you on in person because Although I don't know
I'd
that
like-
they'd let a joint in this studio, but we would. We would.
No, but I could go outside and sneak one.
No, hasn't it? It's become legal in D.C. No,
Yeah, maybe not here then.
no, not at AE.
No one would even
So,
know.
so he's wagging her head no. All right. Well, thank you so much,
If I
Andrew.
use my vape, no one would know.
Oh, you can do that with that.
Vaping's been banned in San Francisco.
Smokeless and smellless.
Okay, you're on. You can come anytime.
I do want to get high in the AI.
Okay. Well, you know what? It's our promise to you.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen, and you didn't hear that from here, but yeah. We'll have you on stage vaping, and that would be fun.
And don't go away. We have questions for our Patreon listeners.
Right. Our Patreon and we gather subscribers get bonus questions to Andrew, and you won't hear them if you haven't
And
subscribed.
it's usually the best part of the
It's
show.
usually the best part because now Andrew is really high, and now we move beyond buggery at private schools. So stay on the line, Andrew, and otherwise, thank you for being with us today.
Oh my gosh, Andrew is so entertaining. He has that classic British sense. Hitchens had it too, where the combination of brilliance and humor, but sort of easiness in conversation, and bravery about what he's writing about and putting up with in his own community.
I know, and I just don't know how the Brits do it. They produce the best editors, the best writers, the greatest humorists, and these personalities. I mean, Andrew is fantastic and unique and best gay-splainer ever.
Gets a new category, gay-splainer. All right, we have some time for some listener reaction, which we love. Thank you for reaching out to us, all of you. Zoe, you're up. Let's tee up some listener reaction.
So we have had a bit of a vocal fry theme in the listener reactions.
Do you think we're killing the vocal, like we're overdoing the vocal fry?
I don't
know.
I don't know if I love listening to it, but I like the listener feedback that we get from it.
What did they say?
Okay, so this comes from Leslie in Virginia. Leslie says, "Hi, darling femsplainers.
That's sweet.
As a classical voice teacher, voice as in singing, I am delighted by your skewering of vocal fry. Vocal fry occurs because the speaker or singer uses too little air to vibrate the vocal cords while simultaneously muscling the folds together, resulting in a sort of saggy encounter which causes the popping and rattling that can be so off-putting.
You have to absorb that.
My theory is that college-educated women are trying to speak lower than their voices are inclined. A solid vocal fry can provide tones many octaves lower than healthy phonation. Is it unhealthy? Could be. Is it emotionally unhealthy? Are we fundamentally uncomfortable with our femininity? Better minds than mine can answer that one.
And the big question is it annoying?
Yes.
So that's interesting because actually my husband David was asking me, is this something like Valley Girl talk? Is this an sorry, my voice went low
It's
accidentally.
like Kim Kardashian.
But
talk,
is it?
too.
It's not a natural thing. It's a studied thing. As this voice teacher is pointing out that you're
It's a
deliberately
contagion.
deliberately lowering your voice. But
So
why?
Then they go like that.
Well, it's interesting. What does it say about our time that that's the sort of fashion as opposed to the 80s when everybody talked like this?
Or the Jackie Kennedy, in the White House.
And
or
then
the president.
my favorite era, the Grace Kelly era, which I've also referred to, where you had elocution lessons, and there was
Audrey Hepburn.
there was an American version of an upper class accent, or upper class doesn't exist in America. But
Well, if you listen to me, you'd see it. It's still in yours.
well, I guess it did, but it was a kind of universal way of speaking that seemed educated.
Yes.
And lost
it's
whatever local
gone.
accent that it's gone. Okay, what was it? There was another one about
Right,
this?
so that
But
actually-
by the way, thank you, Leslie. That was an amazing description of what is going on with vocal fry.
And we got attacked by some antagonists who said that we were discriminating against young women.
Okay, go on.
They're discriminating against elegant speech.
Yes, exactly.
And no one will take you seriously, and they will not tell you.
So this comes from Jacob. and this transitions quite nicely into what we were just saying. He said, "Hi, girls. Love the show, and I've been a fan of the show since last summer, but unfortunately, I had to cut out all English language content for a few months in order to prep myself for the Spanish language proficiency test here in Spain. Now that that's finished, I've been catching up on the episodes this season, and I just wanted to quickly comment on the creaky voice tangent that came up for a few episodes." I like that better.
Creaky voice. Yeah, that's actually a better
verbal
description.
creak.
Yeah.
"I'm currently working on my degree in linguistics, and some of the comments that were made left me thinking that I should weigh in. Creaky voice, though you may find it annoying and unappealing, is a perfectly normal feature of many languages and doesn't indicate anything inherently negative about the speaker. In fact, some languages even treat it as a phonemic? Phonemic.
Yeah.
That is, the presence or absence of creaky voice changes the meaning of a word. There is also no evidence to suggest that creaky voice is in any way bad for you, as people who speak languages with it don't develop any long-term issues because of it. Thank you, and have a wonderful day."
I bet you get horns in your vocal cords.
I feel like it makes my throat hurt when I do imitations like that.
I don't
just
know
feel
about it. I feel like a smoker. Okay, well, we have two sides. One saying it's fine, and the other saying it's. We don't know if it's harmful, but it's, as you say, bottom line, it's annoying.
Wait, you did it.
No, I didn't.
Annoying.
I think because I literally have a frog in my throat. I am. I better drink some more wine so I get rid of it. Yeah, you're right. I'll listen to my vocal cords. Yeah. Okay, go on, Zoe.
So this one is making fun of you, Danielle. It's about your backsplash terminology.
Well, we have to say that
your kitchen backsplash?
No, I often say, and this is probably towards the end of the podcast, where I say, go to, oh God, I really do have a, where I say, go to, femsplainer, backsplash, femsplainers. And I have said backsplash, but then I, correct myself and say backslash, but now that's wrong too.
It turns out that is
apparently.
also wrong.
Yeah.
So this comes from Jonathan. He says, "Hello, femsplainers. As someone who writes software for a living, aka a tech-splainer, I just thought I'd let you know that your use of the word backslash in web addresses sends tiny daggers through my heart.
No, sorry.
The backslash character, which is found right above the enter or return key on a keyboard, is not in fact used in web addresses. That responsibility is held by the forward slash, which is to the left of the shift key. It's sort of the computer nerd equivalent of what gratuitous whom usage is to English nerds. Our probably much deserved punishment for all those pedantic corrections of arcane syntax that nobody asked us to provide ever, but that we provided nonetheless. So with that in mind, I will be on my way to patreon.com/femsplainers.
Slash is better. Let's just go for the slash. Stop
But don't they
trying
go
to...
in two directions?
Yeah, but we just say slash.
And everyone knows.
He's totally right.
He
now
is.
that you think about it,
Backslash
course it's a
that
forward
way.
slash.
It goes the other way. It would look weird. I only
Okay,
use it
you know
for
what?
frowny, slanty faces.
So
Take
can we
that
say
correction.
forward slash?
No, just say slash.
Just say slash.
Why are you trying to give it an identity, Christina, that it doesn't want?
Okay, I'm not, but I just
Just
want
say
to point out.
slash.
Don't slash.
Don't say cis slash.
It's
It's cis slash.
there's heteronormative
slash.
I don't want to
Okay,
read.
slash.
You're reinforcing the binary.
Okay. If you want to support us, go to patreon.com/femsplainers or wegather.com/femsplainers.
Amazing.
Okay.
You did great. Jonathan will be so proud.
Thank you, Jonathan. All right. Anything else?
I believe you had one.
Oh,
didn't you?
I love this one. This is from Richard. And he wrote to us. He was a little worried that Dorothy Parker we can now no longer recite Dorothy Parker.
She would be canceled.
She would be canceled. Okay, Dorothy Parker
Of the Algonquin Round Table
was
fan, a
maybe-
great wit and
like the Oscar Wilde of women, right? Like just one of the, and wrote for the New Yorker and just fabulously witty and talented and brilliant. And one of her famous little, what do you call
vignettes.
Poems was, she wrote, "I like to have a martini, 2 at the very most. After 3, I'm under the table. After 4, I'm under my
the
host. And apparently he's worried that, well, we couldn't. I mean, you're right. If she put that out over Twitter.
Did she get consent?
Yeah. And she also said candy is dandy, but liquor is quicker. I think you could probably say that still.
Rape culture?
Oh.
They use that in Willy Wonka, you know.
What?
Well,
Gene Wilder says that in Willy
Candy is
Wonka.
dandy, but liquor is quicker?
Yes, to children.
oh, well, okay.
Oh, okay. Well, that was, sorry.
A thinly disguised pedophilic. Really, I'm sorry. Let's move on.
Okay, so Richard came up with, it's not a politically correct version of what Dorothy Parker should say today. He actually came up with the Me Too offenders version of if Dorothy Parker were alive, she might have written. So he wrote...
So wait, he's not going to correct it. He's going to
Come up with a...
Modernize it.
Modernize it and accentuate its badness.
Yes, he said he made up a new version and we're to say it in a male voice, which in our case would result in vocal fry, but I'll say it. I like to drink scotch and water. Just 1 or 2 gives me class. With 3, my jokes get too funny. With 4, my hands on your ass.
Okay.
He said, I wouldn't dare repeat this at a firm social event since irony has pretty much vanished from the professional workplace, unlike femsplainers.
No irony, no humor, God
Nothing.
forbid, no sexual innuendos. Out.
But Richard, that was a really wonderfully creative, and
The one place in the world
we can
where it's
actually say
appreciated.
that.
Well, this is, I actually forgot one. I have one from our top fan on Facebook. I just have to give Sheldon a shout out.
Sheldon, we love you so much, Sheldon.
Sheldon provides me with so much
Sheldon is great.
wonderful comedic material.
Sheldon's all over our Facebook. We love you, Sheldon.
I do. So he made a very funny comment about the vodka tampons that I just had to share.
Okay.
He said, I nearly spat out my coffee in hysterics listening to this story. Just imagining Danielle dipping a tampon in vodka is unnerving enough. But the fact that she somehow managed to use it after, that is a testament to human ingenuity. So
Thank you, Sheldon. I appreciate your appreciation.
we make
for my-
Sheldon laugh. So that's important.
As long as we make Sheldon laugh. Okay, I think that's it. I think we're done. And we've only got a couple more podcasts till we break for the summer. And so please don't forget us at patreon.com/femsplainers and wegather.com/femsplainers. Please help.
And if you go to iTunes or wherever you listen to this podcast and give us a review, and 5 stars would be helpful.
And
We
merch. We almost
appreciate
forgot
it.
about merch.
Oh, and we have our merch on Zazzle.com. I think it's /Femsplainers podcast.
If you search Femsplainers on the homepage,
you come up. We've got everything. I even have a phone case.
Yeah,
But we
it's
have
very
mugs,
snazzy.
Cocktail accoutrements, bags.
And
it's
it
all
looks
there.
like it's protecting your phone. It
It is.
doesn't
It's a
seem like
genuine-
a flimsy one.
No, it's a genuine. And we only do quality merch here.
That's true.
so
I know we have bagoos,
we have bagoos.
which are very nice quality.
Even my 17-year-old daughter wanted one, so I was
See,
flattered.
That's
yeah.
how we know.
Yeah. So
We're
yeah,
We need Femsplainer umbrellas.
we could do that.
I like that. I need a nice umbrella, and I like the color scheme.
Okay, and the flowers. It's
Or
yours.
we could sell headbands with horns on them.
No, that would be anti-Semitic.
Oh, right.
We need
One horn.
I don't know how you put a horn on the back of your
A necklace where the charm is on the back.
below your cranium or whatever. All right, thank you for joining us. Bye.
Au revoir.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Femsplainers. Stay with us by following us on Twitter and Facebook at Femsplainers and on Instagram at Femsplainers Podcast. You can always email questions and comments to contact@femsplainers.com. We read every one.
We are recorded at the American Enterprise Institute in Washington, D.C. And thanks to AEI Research Assistant Zoe Appler, who is our production assistant here in the studio, and thanks to Nat Frum, our audio and video editor, and occasional millennial mansplainer.
And listen to us on pretty much any of your favorite podcast platforms. And please remember to subscribe and like us at iTunes if possible. Every like helps us keep our solid 5-star rating. Cheers.